99% the moment I pushed open the heavy oak doors of Courtroom 7B, I felt it, that particular kind of silence that isn't quiet at all. It's full of assumption, full of judgment, full of people who have already decided who you are before you've opened your mouth. My name is Serena Voss. I'm 35 years old. And that morning, I was representing myself in my own divorce trial. I want you to sit with that for a second, a woman alone, no attorney, facing the most powerful legal team money could buy. Because that's exactly what Marcus had done. He'd spent the months before the trial making sure I couldn't afford anyone. Joint accounts?
Drained.
Shared credit cards? Cancelled. The financial advisor I'd trusted for years? Suddenly unavailable. Every single call going to voicemail. He'd built walls around every door I might have walked through. And he wanted me to feel it. When I entered, Marcus was already seated. Marcus Holloway, VP of Regional Development at Caldwell Ventures, the kind of man who wore his success like a second skin. Expensive watch, tailored suit, a quiet confidence that came not from character, but from always being in rooms where everyone else was smaller. He didn't look at me when I walked in. He didn't have to. He had Brenda Alcott for that. Brenda Alcott was his attorney, a woman known in legal circles for the kind of precision that leaves nothing standing. She turned and looked at me the way you look at a contestant you've already eliminated. Then she smiled, small and sharp, the kind that isn't for you, it's for the room. She doesn't even have counsel, she said, just loud enough. Bless her heart. A few people in the gallery exhaled something that sounded like amusement. I heard it land. I let it. Judge Claudia Marsh entered, measured, sharp-eyed, allergic to theatrics. She'd clearly seen too many people come in expecting sympathy and leave with nothing. She scanned the courtroom, took in the scene, Brenda's polished war table on one side, me with my single yellow legal pad and a plastic bottle of water on the other, and her expression did something I recognized. It tightened. When she asked if I was proceeding without representation, I said yes. Her voice stayed careful, professional. Ms. Voss, your husband's attorneys have decades of experience in high-asset dissolution. There are equity structures, trusts, and restricted shares at issue. Are you absolutely certain? I kept my eyes on the bench. I can't afford counsel, Your Honor. But I'm ready to proceed. Brenda rose before the words had even settled. For the record, Your Honor, Mr. Holloway did not prevent Ms. Voss from retaining an attorney. He simply took the legally appropriate step of securing marital accounts to protect assets during the separation period. A $40,000 transition settlement was offered. She refused. The word transition sat in the air like an insult wrapped in paperwork. Marcus's mouth curved. Barely. The way it curves when he knows he's already won. Before I share what happened next, I need to know you're here. If this is landing somewhere, if something in this story feels familiar, just say listening in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. It matters more than I can explain. And now, here's the rest. They had planned for me to be small. They had not planned for me to be prepared. For 11 months before that trial, while Marcus and his team were busy building their case, I was building mine. Quietly, methodically. The way women learn to do things when no one is watching, not because we are invisible, but because invisibility is sometimes the only space where truth can breathe. It started with the family sink. Marcus had always insisted on convenience. One home network, automatic backups, everything in one place, his documents, his calendars, his correspondence, all of it flowing through a shared server he'd had installed in our basement. He called it a family system. He never imagined I'd understand what lived inside it. I'm not a tech expert, but I am thorough. And what I found, in quiet hours when he thought I was sleeping or folding laundry, or simply not existing in any way that mattered, was a paper trail wide enough to walk through. There was a trust. The Meridian Blue Trust. Structured as an irrevocable vehicle with layered beneficiaries, holding approximately $39 million. It appeared nowhere in his disclosures. I also found the name of a shell company, registered in Nevada, with a corporate address that led to a mailbox. The signatory? His personal assistant, Tara Finch. The same Tara who showed up at company dinners in dresses that didn't match the occasion, who got promoted twice in 18 months for reasons no one could quite articulate. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mother. Not my closest friend. I documented. I printed. I organized. And I waited for the moment when it would mean something. In court, Brenda's opening was confident and clean. She walked the judge through a version of my marriage I barely recognized, a story where Marcus was a self-made professional whose hard work had built everything, and I was a woman who had contributed in a domestic capacity and was now overreaching for assets I didn't understand and hadn't earned. She used the phrase emotionally driven claims. She said it twice. When it was my turn, I didn't go to the podium. I stepped into the aisle with my legal pad against my chest, and I spoke plainly. My husband says this case is simple, I began. He says he built everything himself, and I'm just here because I can't let go. I paused. What I'm actually here for is what's missing from his disclosures. That's when I named the Meridian Blue Trust. Slowly, clearly, with the exact figure and the structure type. The room went still, not dramatically, not like a movie, but with that specific silence that happens when people realize they've underestimated someone. Brenda's hand went flat on the table. Marcus's jaw tightened by 1 degree. Judge Marsh leaned forward. Ms. Voss, that is a serious allegation. I know, Your Honor. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out 1 single page. I'd like to submit this as Exhibit 1. The document was a wire transfer confirmation, routing details, dates, amounts, showing a multi-million-dollar movement into an account that had no business appearing in a standard corporate operation. Brenda accepted her copy the way you accept something you believe might detonate. When she looked up, her expression had changed. Not panicked, not yet, but recalibrated. Like a woman who'd entered a room she thought she'd mapped and found a door she hadn't accounted for. Their next move was predictable. When they couldn't attack the evidence, they attacked me. Brenda called a witness, Dale Reeves, Marcus's CFO. Steady, suited, practiced. He denied everything with the calm of someone who'd been coached by people who charge by the hour. No hidden accounts. No concealed transfers. Books fully audited and above reproach. When I stood to cross-examine, I left my notes on the table. Dale, I said, you've been to my home. You've sat at my dinner table. He shifted. I have. You asked me once for a recipe. A small sound from the gallery, confusion, maybe amusement. And you thanked me with a bottle of wine you left on the doorstep. I still have the card. I let that sit for half a second, just long enough. So, you know I'm not someone who invents stories for sport. His nostrils flared. I'm not here to comment on your character, Ms. Voss. Good, I said. Then comment on the software. I paused. Does Caldwell Ventures use an internal accounting system called Dual Track Ledger? The temperature shifted. It wasn't loud. It was the kind of shift you feel when the air pressure changes before a storm. Judge Marsh ordered him to answer. Yes, he admitted. They used Dual Track. Yes, it was capable of generating separate reporting views. One for external auditors. One for internal leadership. 2 books, I said simply. His eyes flashed. He recovered fast, but the flash was real. I placed a folder on the table. 1 document. Articles of incorporation for a shell entity called Finch Advisory Group. Nevada address. No traceable operations. Sole officer, Tara Finch. And payment records showing consulting fees paid to Finch Advisory Group, timed precisely to the week before Marcus filed for divorce. The gallery murmured. Everyone in that room knew who Tara Finch was. I didn't look at Marcus. I didn't need to. The next day, they came for my credibility. Brenda submitted a sworn statement from a therapist I'd seen 3 years ago, during the hardest season of my life, the year we lost our daughter at 22 weeks. The statement described me as emotionally volatile, prone to fixation, and a questionable narrator of events. Marcus lowered his eyes when she read it aloud. Performing grief over a weapon he'd sharpened himself. On the stand, Brenda asked me about that time. The sessions. The medication. The nights I'd told people I felt gaslit, controlled, like I was disappearing inside my own marriage. I answered every question. I didn't deflect. I didn't perform dignity. I just told the truth plainly. Yes, I sought help, I said. Because I was grieving. Because I couldn't sleep. Because I wanted to stay someone I recognized. I looked at the judge. That's what mentally healthy people do. Brenda tilted her head. And yet here you are, making allegations about hidden trusts and offshore accounts without a single attorney, without financial expertise. Doesn't that concern you? What concerns me, I said, is that the only way they can respond to my evidence is by trying to make me sound unstable. Which tells you something about the evidence. And then I said the word that changed the room. Recording. Brenda's hand paused mid-motion. Marcus's face went a fraction too still. Georgia is a one-party consent state. If I'm part of a conversation, I can record it. Over the last year of our marriage, I did. Not to create drama. Not as a trap. I did it because I knew, the way women often know, that when this moment came, my word would be treated like a liability. So I made sure my word had company. I submitted the device to the court for review. What was on that recording, played the next morning in open court, was Marcus's voice, not his courtroom voice, not his investor call voice. His kitchen voice, late at night, when he thought the world was asleep. You don't touch the trust. You don't get near it. And then, colder, if you push, I'll make sure you're too unstable to be taken seriously. I already talked to the therapist. She owes me a favor. The court reporter's fingers stopped. Just for a second. Judge Marsh removed her glasses. Cleaned them slowly. Put them back on. Then she looked at Brenda Alcott with an expression I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Counselor, she said, did your client just confirm that a medical professional was paid to produce a false psychiatric assessment to manipulate legal proceedings? The therapist, when called to the stand, confirmed it. Voice shaking, eyes red. She'd accepted help, a debt paid, a problem that disappeared. She'd been told what language to use, what diagnosis would be useful. She said, I'm sorry. Twice. Judge Marsh said nothing to her right away. She was looking at Marcus. When the agents came through the courtroom doors, badges visible, warrant in hand, Marcus didn't fight it. He stood very still. And in that stillness, I saw something I hadn't expected. Not the man who'd laughed at my settlement offer. Not the man who'd handed judges a version of me built to be dismissed. Just someone whose story had finally caught up with him. Brenda stepped back immediately. My client will be cooperating fully. The pivot was instantaneous. Judge Marsh ordered his passport surrendered. Assets frozen. A receiver appointed. Months later, after the investigations, after the audits, after the employee retirement funds were restored and the company stabilized under oversight, I sat alone in what had once been a shared office, and I found the last piece. Behind a panel in the wall, a hard drive. Files that went back before our marriage. My name, my family's property in the mountains, development projections. A plan, written before the first dinner, before the first date. I wasn't angry. I was strangely relieved. Because it meant I hadn't been crazy. I hadn't been dramatic. I had simply been right, in a world that spent years betting I wouldn't be able to prove it. I didn't walk out of that courthouse rich. I walked out intact. And I've learned that intact, truly, quietly, undeniably intact, is the rarest outcome there is. If you've ever been underestimated in a room full of people who thought the meeting was already over, this story is for you. Your voice has weight, even when it shakes, especially then. The moment you stop accepting someone else's verdict on your worth, that's when the math changes. Not easily, not instantly, but permanently. If this reached you, drop a comment. Tell me what stayed with you. And if you know someone who needs to hear that you can come back from being written off, share this with them. It might be the thing that reminds them to keep going. Thank you for listening. It means more than you know.